Tashidelek, as we mark the conclusion of this 3-day special International Tibet Support Groups meeting, we do so at a moment of significant consequence. Beginning our final day with a deeply moving and fortunate audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we recognize that this gathering marks not an end, but the birth of a renewed collective journey toward the resolution of the Sino-Tibet conflict and the fulfillment of the aspirations of the Tibetan people. And I am deeply honored to be joined on this dais by the Honorable Michael Brandt, Parliamentary State Secretary from Germany, and the Honorable Senator Jiří Oberfelser, Vice President of the Czech Senate. The histories of both your nations, from the fall of the Berlin Wall to the triumphs of the Velvet Revolution, stands as monumental testaments to the world. Your presence here reminds us that even the most formidable walls of oppression eventually crumble under the relentless power of nonviolence and the unwavering weight of truth. I am also filled with the sense of abiding gratitude to the over 100 representatives from 32 countries present at this meeting, and your presence is a profound reminder that we do not stand alone. Standing here before you all, I cannot overstate the critical urgency of the situation inside Tibet. It is too evident from the briefings throughout our sessions what not just the Tibetan people, but the world stands to lose. As I speak, around 1 million Tibetan children sit in state-sponsored colonial boarding schools in Tibet. While the world has acknowledged such colonial residential schools of the past as a tragedy and a stain on the history of humanity, 1 million Tibetan children being forced into this very same nightmare today are being deprived of the opportunity to learn their own language or to immerse in their own culture. It is heart-wrenching to realize that this tragedy is not a memory of history, but a living reality inside Tibet in this 21st century. One must ask, what drives such systemic cruelty? The People's Republic of China, trapped in a regressive, colonizing mentality, is deeply threatened by the enduring and distinct national identity of the Tibetan people. In its eyes, our very existence is a threat, a living piece of evidence that lays bare the falsehood of his claim that, quote unquote, Tibet has been a part of China since antiquity. To hide its own facade, the PRC seeks to forcibly sinicize and eradicate this ancient civilization. As a result, the Tibetan language, our religion, and our culture, the very heartbeat of Tibetan identity, are under a coordinated existential threat and attacks from all sides. What the PRC seeks to destroy is exactly what the world desperately needs. In a world increasingly afflicted by violence, centuries-old Tibetan Buddhism, as a science of mind, carries within its fold the potential for positive shift in human consciousness. It is a practical blueprint for a more compassionate and resilient future for humanity. Yet, the Tibetan struggle is not only for our inner world, but also the physical world. The geopolitical reality of Tibet's strategic location cannot be ignored. Since China's illegal occupation of Tibet, Tibet has been systematically securitized, turning a historically peaceful buffer into a militarized zone. This shift has profound implications as the security of Tibet is inextricably linked to the broader security of Asia. Furthermore, as water shortages become a palpable crisis across the globe, the world must recognize that the lives of nearly 2 billion people, over a quarter of the human population, depend on the rivers originating from Tibet. The condition of the third pole and its impact on global warming is a long-known fact that can no longer be sidelined. As such, the resolution of the Sino-Tibet conflict is not merely in the interests of the Tibetan people. It is in the vital interests of China and the world at large. Let the peaceful resolution of this Sino-Tibet conflict reignite the world's faith in nonviolence. Let it be the litmus test, as Honorable Michael Brandt mentioned, that proves to humanity that even the most entrenched conflicts can be settled through dialogue without resorting to violence. With this realization comes a profound sense of responsibility, one that rests heavily upon all of us. But at the same time, we must acknowledge the striking truth that despite the PRC's stature as a global power with unimaginable resources to spare, the Tibetan cause continues to burn brightly on the world stage. This is due solely to the benevolent leadership of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the indomitable resilience of the Tibetan people, especially from those within Tibet, and our global network of unwavering allies, such as the Tibet Support Group gathered here today. Nevertheless, we must acknowledge that the world is at a crossroad. As the global landscape shifts, we must maneuver with strategic agility, adapting our methods without ever losing our core values. To meet this immense responsibility, we must ensure that the work of our support group is institutionalized. We must move beyond discussion and towards a strategic alignment, one that is coordinated and action-oriented. We must ensure that support for Tibet becomes a permanent fixture in the halls of parliaments, in the strategic agendas of nations, and in the conscience of the civil society. I consider it of great importance that your unwavering commitment to our cause should become a legacy for whoever comes after you to inherit and to be woven into the very fabric of institutions and communities that you represent. Therefore, cultivation of newer and younger allies and advocates from the exiled Tibetan population and also within the international community is timely and is of paramount importance. By leveraging modern tools and a fresh perspective, we can strengthen our present advocacy while reaching the unreached audience, those corners of the world where the story of Tibet has not yet been heard. This is how we ensure that our movement remains substantive, professionalized, and capable of withstanding any global political shifts. Tomorrow, as we collectively commemorate the 67th anniversary of the Tibetan National Uprising Day, your presence and the declaration unanimously adopted at this meeting sent a clear message to the PRC government that the Tibetan people and our partners remain committed to countering its genocidal policies inside Tibet, its interference in the distinct sacred Tibetan tradition, Buddhist tradition, of recognizing reincarnations, and its falsification of the narrative on Tibet's history and current situation. If I could conjure the power of what-ifs and ask you all, what if we could travel back in time, knowing what we know now? Wouldn't we resolve to prevent the tragedies of history much sooner? Wouldn't we act with desperate urgency to save the countless lives lost to unwarranted conflicts? I believe we would. While we cannot change the past, we possess the power to ensure that the cause of Tibet is regarded not as a tragedy, but as a triumph of peace over violence, of truth over lies, and of light over darkness. With this, I end my remarks by expressing on behalf of the Department of Information and International Relations of the Central Tibetan Administration our deepest gratitude for your partnership and support. I express my regards and congratulations to the core group for the Tibetan Cause India and all my esteemed colleagues at the Department of Information and International Relations for successfully convening and facilitating this important meeting. Furthermore, I would especially like to acknowledge the diligent work and contributions of the members of the Voluntary Tibet Advocacy Group, led by the coordinators of VTAC India and Dharamsala to this meeting. Thank you and Tashtale.